Hey Mario,
Hi,
how are you?
how are you?
Baruch Hashem, how are you?
Good.
Good, good, good.
Are you back in town? Are you in town?
No, I'm in Toronto.
Oh, you're in Toronto.
Yeah, yeah, where it's 11 o'clock.
Say it again?
It's 11 o'clock here.
Oh,
It's Eastern time.
mm-hmm. How's the weather there? Is it warm or regular?
It's nice.
No?
It's nice. It was in 70s today. Sure, about a
Oh,
month ago, it was in the 20s, so it's much better. Yeah,
big change.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Mhm.
Oh, I'm gonna 3:10.
Hi,
Beautiful. It's so white. This is great. Hi, everybody.
hi there.
Hello.
Thank you. I was saying I thought Yaakov, because I have the new volume 21s. Because
Yeah,
I was hoping you
I'm in
might.
Toronto. It'll
Oh,
be
yeah.
hard to get to you. Bez Hashem. Yeah, next week we'll be back.
Okay. Right. We started with buses.
3:10, right?
Yeah, I think so. 310. Yeah. We ended up that if one lighted candles on a table or a tray, so the tray of the table becomes a basus, and you can't move them even after the lights have been extinguished. It becomes a basis l'dover ha'asr. Placement, we're on 310. Placement by someone other than the owner. We're talking about muktzah machmas gufa. I'm sorry. We're talking about basis l'dover ha'asr, that something that serves as a base for a muktzah item at the time of ben hashmashos can become a muktzah item itself. The Orzer mentions another condition which limits how a non-muktzah item is rendered a forbidden base. The Orzer writes that only the owner of the base object or one acting with the owner's permission can render the base object a formal base of the muktzah. But if someone places an item upon another's item without permission, the base item doesn't become forbidden for use on Shabbos. So, somebody else put a muktzah item on something of yours. Somebody else cannot asser your item by his action. And the Ramah accepts this. Im adam einiach davar muktzah al shel chaveiro. If someone placed a muktzah item on your friend's something, lo amrina denasa basis davar aser. We do not extend this prohibition of basis. They not am oyser shel chaver shel amidaito. You, without your consent, a person can't prohibit something that doesn't belong to you. This important qualification raises an intriguing question with a very practical application. Are the members of a household presumed to be authorized to act on behalf of other members of a household when they handle items and put them aside before Shabbos? Can one of them render an item a base that may not be moved when placing a muktzah item upon it? Addressing such a case, the Sefer Hilchot Shabbat b'Shabbat writes that a wife does not render her husband's items muktzah in this manner. That's a pretty wild thing, because normally ishto kagufo, so we'll have to see how he handles that. The vadayim noisin liishto bnei beso klikot l'shimush bo kirtzonam. If the husband gave his wife or someone in his family some type of kli to use, v'im kenem yecholim la'osro midin muktzah kozman shemishtamshim bo kivet nitel l'shimusha. So then, if it's a muktzah item and they put it down somewhere, they were given permission to use it, so then they could aser it. Let's say something the balabais normally uses. And he hasn't given that to his wife or to his family to use. Lav kol kemenayu le'esor lav afilu ishtav nevoso. So if his wife or his family takes that item and moves it to something which could become prohibited as a boss, it doesn't become prohibited. He heard it from Rav Yosef. The same would apply if a husband puts a muktzah item on one of his wife's items. He can't aser it if it was a muktzah item. The Orchot Shabbos cites the Mincha Shabbos, who rules that a child who has not yet reached bar mitzvah cannot render anything in the house forbidden, even if it does not belong specifically to any other family member. Thus, if a child cleans up a non-muktzah game and then places a computer upon it, the game is not rendered a base, and it's not prohibited. However, the Orchot Shabbos suggests that if the parent gives the child sole jurisdiction over something, then the child's decision is given the adult's authority. Ulanian cotton, a minor, Ayin B'Sefer Minchas Shabbos, shekos of the ein machshava l'kot. The cotton's thinking and doing something, determining something, has no halachic validity. L'chein kos of B'Sefer Das Torah, l'chur anir gam b'zeh she'im yesh magira miyuchedet l'cotton. Let's say the child has his own drawer, and he puts his items in that drawer. If he happened to put a muktzah item in there, the drawer becomes a boss's. The father gave him permission. He's doing it al das his father. It's as if the father did it. The Shmir Shabbos Kilchasa reports that opinions differ on the question of whether something may be rendered a halachic base for a kli shemlachto le'isser, right? A utensil normally used in a manner forbidden on Shabbos, which we've learned can be moved under certain circumstances. We discussed this in Shir 5. There's a machlokes regarding what happens to this base regarding a kli shemlachto le'isser. The Mincha Shabbos rules leniently that the base item does not gain the status of a forbidden base, while the Aruch HaShulchan Tehilas LeDavid rules stringently. But he also writes, we're talking about the Shmir Shabbos Kilchasa, that even if it does not have the status of a base, that object is not treated any more stringently than the Kli Shemlachto Lisser itself. We said that for the Kli Shemlachto Lisser, you could move it if you needed to use it, or you needed the place, right? Therefore, the base may be moved in the case of tzarach gufa, right? If it's needed for permitted use, or tzarach makomo, which were the criteria of moving a kli shavlachta le'isser, so the base is not treated any stringently. Basis of davar aser, rotzelom or davar shekla atzma muter l'taplo. We're talking about a thing that normally you'd move. Aval kasher u'mishrabish basis l'muktzah, but if it becomes a base for davar muktzah, kagon, sheiniach davar muktzah alav, like you put a muktzah item on it, otolabo davar, or hang something on it, muktzah lifnei Shabbos, he put it there before Shabbos. Harebu makabel is kol adinim shel muktzah. The base gets all the dinim of the muktzah item itself. Therefore, you wouldn't be able to just stop move it. Just like the regular muktzah item. And once it was placed there, bein hashmashos, even though the muktzah item is removed from the base, here's an important din: you still may not be able to move the base, even though the muktzah item has been removed from it. But he warns us, but he makes us understand that if this kli, like a hammer, which you can use to break up walnuts, we've said, and that's sitting on a book, for example, the bosses does it's really not going to be worse than the hammer. So if you could move the hammer because you wanted to use the hammer, or because you needed its place, you could move the base too. So that's clear. What if an item serves as a base for both muktzah and not muktzah objects? We have learned that under certain conditions, a non-muktzah object that serves as a base for a muktzah object becomes a basis l'davar aser and becomes muktzah itself. What happens if the base item simultaneously serves as the basis for a muktzah and a permitted item? Then the base is known as a basis l'davar ha'aser ve'hamuter. For example, what happens when one places candlesticks as well as a book on top of a stand or a table, or if one places a wallet and a water bottle into a backpack? Under what conditions would a person be permitted to move the table or the backpack? The Gemara in Masechet Shabbos addresses such a case. The Mishnah permits moving a basket containing a muktzah stone. But the Gemara writes that this was stated regarding a basket which also contains fruits, which are not muktzah. The presence of the fruits permits one to move the basket, despite the presence of the stone, provided the stone cannot be tilted out. So the Mishnah says, Noitel Adam, Kalkala v'ha'evan besoch. You can move a basket and there's a stone in it. Says the Gemara of Amai, why should you be able to do it? The stone is a muktzah machmas gufo. Why should you be able to move the basket? The stone is in the basket. The basket is a basis. It's a basis l'davar aser. You shouldn't be able to move it. The basket doesn't just have the stone, but it has fruits in it, which is a permitted item. The lishdino leperi, let him get rid of the fruit, v'nishti le'evan, and then get the stone out of the basket, v'niktinu b'yadayim, and carry the fruit with his hands, and then you don't have any problem. Kid Rabbi Lo Yamarav, the perus hamitin fin. We're talking about this. The perus are dirty and moist. Achanamid the perus hamitin fin. So you wouldn't remove the stone. Rashi explains that since the basket is used mainly for the fruits, which are permitted, the basket is not rendered muktzah, as the status of the basket is determined by its primary purpose. If the primary purpose is to hold fruit, and a stone happened to be in there, it doesn't render the basket muktzah. Rashi explains the ikar nasis basar leperos. This basket, its primary purpose for the fruit. Hilkach evan mitaltelis agav kliu perushu mutter. The stone could be sort of schlepped along as you move the basket with the fruits in it. Thus, according to Rashi's understanding of the Gemara, a non-muktzah object that supports both a muktzah and a non-muktzah object does not become a halachic base to the forbidden object, a basis of davar l'asr, if the base is primarily serving the permitted object. However, the Gemara indicates that it would be preferable, if possible, to remove the muktzah item so as to avoid transporting it even within or upon the permitted base. On the basis of this understanding of the Gemara, the Shulchan Aruch rules that if an item serves as the base for different articles, the more important article will determine the status of the base. In the following source, the Shulchan Aruch delineates the principles of which object determines the status of the base. The example of fruits and the stone given in the Mishnah cited earlier in the Shulchan Aruch. The source for this is Rabbeinu Tam, cited in Tosfos. The Ramah adds that if someone wants to move the base of forbidden and permitted articles on Shabbos, it's preferable to knock or tilt away the muktzah item rather than moving it with the base if this is possible. So if you can get rid of the muktzah item before you pick up the basket by either knocking it or tilting it, like moving it out of that basket in an indirect fashion, that would be preferable before you pick up the basket with all the fruit in it. How does one determine which object is considered more important? The Mishnah Berurah writes that the importance of the items is subjective and depends upon the owner. So you can see they have a picture here of a chair with books on it. Those are not muktzah, and an iPhone. So the question is, how do you, and you want to move the chair somewhere, right? So you can, I think in that case, you would tilt the chair so the iPhone falls off without touching it. And then you can move the chair. I mean, in the case of there, I don't think you can say anything, either one is primary. You happen to put your books down on the chair and the iPhone down on the chair. It's not like it's a basket that is made for fruit or something. You know what I'm saying? This seems to just be random. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Choshev midavar ha'aser, b'mishneim shavin aser. If both are the same, means one is not ikr, then the Mishnah Berurah rules stringently. That for the rest of the world, that which is permitted is more important. But for him individually, it's not. We go after the personal, subjective feeling. As quoted in the name of Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, the more important item is the one that a person would choose to keep if the person could keep only one. According to Rav Moshe Feinstein, quoted by Rav Bodner, and quoted by Shmir Shabbos Kolchasa, whichever item is considered more important at the present time is considered the more important one. This would mean that any item needed on Shabbos would automatically be defined as the more important one. And then you could move it, even if normally the other item is more important. Like the phone and the books. On Shabbos, you can't use a phone. You can use the books. So on Shabbos, the books are more important. To summarize, we have seen 5 conditions necessary to transform a non-muktzah item that serves as a base for a muktzah item into a basis l'davar aser, and it renders the base forbidden to move on Shabbos. The muktzah is placed upon or inside, like a backpack, the base, by the owner of the base, or someone who was given permission by the owner. The muktzah is placed on the base with intent for it to remain there when Shabbos begins. And it's not just forgotten or randomly placed there. The muktzah item remains on the base during the entire duration of Bein HaShmashos. According to some opinions, the muktzah item is placed there with intent for it to remain there for the entire Shabbos. And in case of hefsid, you can be lenient. Meaning, if you didn't have the intent for it to be there the whole Shabbos, you could avoid the item becoming a basis. If multiple items are placed on the base becomes forbidden only if the resting muktzah items are as important or more important than the resting permitted items. We will discuss some practical applications in the next section of the principles we learned sort of theoretically. We're on page 315. The status of the base for a forbidden item has many practical applications on Shabbat, some of which have already been addressed. The poskim also addressed the related case of a garment with a pocket containing money. Does the pocket or clothing become a base? And what should be done if someone discovers that a pocket of one's garment contains money on Shabbos? The Ramah addresses this case and writes that one may move the garment but may not wear it. You have a pocket in a garment. And the garment you use to wear. If in the pocket, if you forgot money in the pocket, you can move the beged. You don't say that the beged becomes a base and you can't move it. It's not that the money is sitting on the primary portion of the beged. It's in a pocket. But you should not wear it. We're concerned that you will go out with it and you would carry. But it doesn't seem to be a muktzah issue. Right? The Mishnah Berurah writes that the halachic status of the garment depends upon the type of pocket. In his view, this leniency applies only in the case of a free hanging pocket. Ploimar. The pocket is not sewn along the length of the garment. Elapiv levad tofer v'hukli tolui v'kulot tolui. The opening is sewn, the rest hangs. The amaya kis kulo tofer bebeged. If the pocket was completely sewn to the garment, amrina the cholabeged nasa basis. We would say basis. This is a case where he forgot it. And therefore, remember, we only say something becomes a basis if you consciously placed it there, bein hashmashos, before Shabbos. But here he forgot it. He says, you should shake out your pocket, get rid of the muktzah. If it's a hanging pocket, you don't even have to shake it out. So the Or L'Tzion suggests similarly that the halacha depends on the type of pocket. You find money in your pocket. Also, it becomes a basis. Maybe you can't move the garment even after the money has been taken out. Pocket is made separately, and then tafur lebeged, and then it's sewn to the garment. Lo nachshav basis akis bilvad. Only the pocket becomes a basis, not the whole garment. And the pocket is batel lebeged, umuter beged biltut, and you could move the garment. Avle makis also migufa beged. If the pocket is made from the body of the garment, nasa kol beged basis lekesef, then the whole garment becomes a base, and you wouldn't be able to move the garment. Also betiltul gamim yotzis hakesef misham, even if you moved it. Ela im ken lo'isa daiter sheyesh hakesef because of Shabbos, unless you didn't have in mind that the money should have been there. Rav Bodner applies the principles above to modern day clothing. Thus, shirt pockets usually fall in the second category, since they are fully sewn to the shirt, while pants pockets are usually in the first category.
So it seems here we're changing one of the exceptions. One of the exceptions, and again, if you look at the principles on page 314, it's if it's simply forgotten. If it's not simply forgotten, so if it's simply forgotten, muktzah doesn't apply. Here, if it's forgotten, we say no. He should have shaken the beged before Shabbos. So it seems like we're here. It's like a negligence standard where before we don't apply that.
Like a knas, almost
Yeah.
like a knas. But that's what the Mishnah Berurah said. The Or L'Tzion notice said, "Ela im kein lo haisa daito shishar kesef b'kis b'Shabbos." He gives the out if you didn't have intent to leave the
Right.
money there. It seems from the Or L'Tzion that he doesn't treat it as a bosses. The Mishnah Berurah,
Right.
but it seems like the Mishnah Berurah is more stringent regarding that.
Yeah. So the Mishnah Berurah would apply again, it's a type of negligence standard, which we don't seem to apply in other situations. I don't think the Mishnah Berurah has said before that if you forgot it, it's negligence. I mean, I don't know, when is forgetting
No,
negligence?
because he's bringing in 309. There's a separate halacha that part of Hachana l'Shabbos is you're supposed to go through and check your pockets and things like that. Things that you're supposed to do to avoid Chilul Shabbos. And here it seems like he's giving us a knas, a fine that you didn't do it. But not midin muktzah, because it can't
Right.
become muktzah. I agree with you, Yaakov. It doesn't fulfill the criteria of a bosses. He's fining us because we
Right.
didn't do the shaking. It's
Yeah.
a different
Okay, I
din.
get it.
It's not a
Yeah.
din of muktzah.
Right.
So Rav Bodner says that a shirt pocket is the second type where it's completely sewn to the garment itself. It's not a separate thing. And therefore, that's worse. So if money is found in a shirt pocket, then the whole beged becomes a busses. But a pants pocket, the pocket is manufactured separately and then attached to your pant. It's not made out of the pant leg itself, right? So pockets which are attached around the opening and hang on the clothing, most pockets in men's pants. So if you place a muktzah in the type A pocket, it's on the shirt itself, and the entire shirt becomes a busses. If the placement was unintentional, the base does not become a busses. And then one should first tilt the muktzah out of the pocket, and then you'd be able to move it. So you see, Yaakov, it says again in the name of Rav Bodner, they're not mentioning this fine
Right.
of the Chafetz Chaim. If the placement was intentional, the entire shirt becomes a busses and is muktzah. However, if the money is in the pant pocket, muktzah was placed in the type B pocket, either intentionally or unintentionally, does not cause the pants to become a busses, since the muktzah is on a non-primary part of the pants. So that I think we understand. According to some poskim, the muktzah should be shaken out of the pocket prior to carrying the pants. Other poskim don't even require niyur. The unanimous view is that the pants may not be worn until the muktzah is removed. And if the pants are to be worn, tilting is required. So you got to get rid of it before you put it on. If it's a shirt, you wouldn't be able to put it on at all. But if it's a pant, you would. If the placement on a shirt was unintentional, then you could shake it out. If the placement of the money, and that's not going to be a case. Nobody's putting money in their pocket, bein hashmoshes, and you want it there. That's just not common sense. And therefore, it's always going to be unintentional. Sometimes all of a sudden you find money, so you just tilt it out. It's always going to be unintentional. Seems to me. So above we learned that the ruling of the Or L'Tzion regarding someone who finds money, or other muktzah items in a pocket on Shabbos, like a pen, right? You might find a pen in a shirt pocket. What should one do with the money or valuable if someone discovers the item while already wearing the garment on Shabbos? Must one immediately tilt it out of his pocket, even if the person is away from home? The Orcha Shabbos writes that poskim disagree as to whether one may continue walking normally with it until he returns home, or whether one must tilt it out of his pocket immediately. We assume they're talking about a place that has an A-roof, right? Of course. If you don't have an A-roof, you got to get rid of it right away, otherwise you're carrying. But I believe they're talking about it's an A-roof, and the question is, you're being metaltel a muktzah item. Should you get rid of it?
But there is another question here. If you're walking with it, whether there's a kira and hanacha, I recall there's an opinion that says you keep walking as long as you don't stop. You're not doing the malacha because there's no akira and hanacha until you get home.
Okay, so that's a diyun. That's a diyun. There are opinions that each step you take might be an akira and hanacha. Others hold that if you're continuing to move, it's not. And plus, our places are not a Rishus Harabim.
Right.
At most, they're probably Carmelites, because they open up maybe into Rishus Harabim, but they're certainly, the streets that we live on are certainly probably not a Rishus Harabim. So but I believe they're talking about a place where carrying is not an issue, because they're dealing with muktzah, they're not dealing with carrying.
Well, one of the halachas was you can't wear it because you're afraid that you're going to carry it. That you can
if you don't have an Eruv.
Right. So we're not always talking about a place where you have an Eruv, is my point.
I'm with you. I mean, but here they're dealing with, I believe, the muktzah issue and not the carrying issue. When they say, should you return home with it, or leave it because you're transporting a muktzah item, they're not dealing here with carrying. And therefore, so even when you're in an Eruv, this question comes up: should you get rid of this muktzah item from your body so you're not dealing with the muktzah item?
Right. But if you look at the Ramah on page 315 in Aleph, the last sentence, but one may not wear it on Shabbos since we are concerned you will go out with it.
There, he's clearly dealing with there's no Eruv.
Right. So again, we're not always dealing with a place where there's an Eruv. There we had one halacha, which clearly there's no Eruv. That's my point.
Yeah. So matzah b'soch kisa beget shalovash be'erev Shabbos. There's an item that's a muktzah machmas gufo. Davar shu muktzah machmas gufo could go in kesef or cartesia, some kind of card, credit card maybe. He's talking about money. And it's in a pocket. And he put it on Erev Shabbos, before Shabbos. And I guess later on Shabbos, he identifies it. Das Rabbi Me'apos, so therefore, it was in his pocket, Ben Hashmoshes. Now again, I doubt that he knew it was there. It was a shochach. I mean, they don't really describe that. Das Rabbi Me'apos, the Kivin Shamuktzah Kvar Nisal Yado, b'toch habeg. Since it's already, he's been carrying it in his bag. You can take it to wherever you're going. This implies that if the garment had not been worn when Shabbat began, even this lenient opinion would require removing the item immediately. The reason, as explained by Baruch Shabbos, is that if one was wearing the garment when Shabbat began, then the muktzah item was presumably left in the pocket unintentionally. If so, the pocket did not become a base because, like we talked about, there's no das for it, and one is permitted to move the muktzah in such a case in an indirect manner. This is similar to the rule concerning a kli shmachta le'isser, which, according to most opinions, one may continue to hold if it was initially picked up in a permitted manner, like when you used it to break walnuts. In contrast, a muktzah item left in a garment from Friday night, and you don't know anything about it, and it was only worn Shabbos morning, may have been intended to remain there for the beginning of Shabbos. I don't know why they say that. Why would somebody intend to have the money there, or the credit card there? I have no idea what they're thinking. May have been intended to remain there for the beginning of Shabbos, in which case the pocket was qualified as a basis. Now back to the Orcha Shabbos. Well, the Das Miktus Ma'aposkim, Chayav L'nar Mekitzu Miyad, that wherever you are, you got to get rid of it from your pocket. If it could get lost and it's valuable, find a hidden place, a karav l'narasham, and hide it there. Hide it kashem b'zeh isser hotzah, right? We're dealing with not a carrying issue, just a muktzah issue. Ve'ein lo lichul l'makom sheyirtzeh. You can't just bring it home. See where the Orcha, I'm reading footnote 11. See where the Orcha Shabbos explains that the Even HaOzer and Derech HaChaim permit leaving the money or mixed item in one's pocket as long as one needs, since the item is already on one's body or in one's pocket, while the Gra maintains the strict position. See the Mishnah Berurah. However, it's worth noting that the Derech HaChaim cited by the Bir Halacha, meaning the Chafetz Chaim, seems to be lenient only for Kli Shalach L'Isser, but not for Muktzah Machmas Gufa, such as money, which is how Rav Bodner and the Piskei Teshuvos understand. Nevertheless, both Rav Bodner and the Piskei Teshuvos still allow room for leniency in this case, based on the Shulchan Aruch HaRav, the Balatanya, who writes that in cases of loss, financial loss, one may move even Muktzah items to a safe place. Plus, because carrying the items in one's pocket is defined as tiltul begufo, right? You're not really carrying it with your hand; it's your body carrying it, which is permitted. The Piskei Teshuvos is lenient on this issue as well, based on the Shulchan Aruch HaRav. Okay, complicated. The Yalkut Yosef. Okay, Susie, my battery is really better. 1 second. 1 second. I don't want to lose everything. Yeah, give me that, and give me in the bottom there. Yeah, there's that white thing. No, not there. In there. No, in there. But quick, I don't want to lose.
Let's get a different chair.
Thank you. Okay, well, we got some power here. Okay, fine. 318. The Yalkut Yosef addresses two other practical examples of bosses, right? Halachic base for muktzah. Drawers that contain muktzah items, candlesticks on a tray, on which candlesticks or a tray on which the candlesticks are placed. Some people have the practice of placing bread upon the base so that the base retains the status of a base for them. Rav Yosef rules, I don't know anyone who puts challah on the same tray as lighting candles. I've never seen that. And these must be Israeli minhagim that we just don't know anything about. The Yalkut Yosef is talking about, Svardip, but is anybody aware of this minhag? To put challah on a base that they're lighting candles on, so that remember, it's using the permitted in the usher item.
Maybe they want to warm up the challah.
I've never heard of it.
Rav Yosef rules that although the status of a base supporting muktzah and non-muktzah items generally acquire the status of the more important items, which is holding on Shabbos, which it is holding. So a candlestick or candlestick tray will have the status of a basis specifically for the forbidden item, since it is specifically designed for supporting the flame. So number one, Magira sheyesh b'tocho dvarim asurim b'tiltul k'mamah. You have a drawer, and in the drawer is money, or avkod afia matches. I'm sorry, he says baking powder. Okay. Ein leposcha b'Shabbat. You shouldn't open up such a drawer on Shabbos. Sharei magira zui bosses l'davar aser. V'yesh b'tocha gan dvarim mutarim. If there are things in the drawer that are permitted, b'tiltul b'Shabbos. V'im chashuvim yoter ma'advarim asurim. And they're more important. Mutar liftoch v'lizkor magira b'Shabbos. Then you could open and close it. Pamutim, candlesticks. Shidliku bayam nerot Shabbos. And they were used for the candles for Shabbos. V'iniku ala pamutim atzmam. Chatichat lechem kodem ben hashmoshes. Even if they placed a piece of bread on the candlesticks before ben hashmoshes.
How do you do that?
I have no idea what they're talking about.
Place on a candle. I get them on the tray, but on the candlestick itself?
Yeah. You're saying the candlestick. Maybe they hung it with this. I have no idea what they're talking about. He doesn't work, he says. Even after the lights go out, you can't move it just because you put the bread there. Mutter, he says, it's not like a combination. The flame was certainly more important. The candlesticks were made for the flame. Even with the tray. Many of us have trays that are specific for our candlesticks, that you put them zebikviyud. So it would work the same way. Even if you put that, you could at least understand how you put the bread on that. But that doesn't work because the whole purpose of that is to support the flame. Now, if the candlesticks that Shabbos were placed on a regular tray, or it was on the table, and it was placed on this tray or on the table, Me'er of Shabbos. And on this tray or the table, there's bread. And there are maybe fancy china dishes that are more important than the candlestick. You could move the tray after the candle lights went out, after the candles go out. That tray, that time that you used, was not specifically made. So we're not talking about your beautiful silver tray that you bought specifically for your candlesticks. We're talking about that Shabbos, you put it on a different tray, which you sometimes use for other things, or you put it directly on the table. There, when you put dishes and your bread, on the table, then you already have, it helps to make it a basis for dover ha'asr and a dover ha'mutter. And then you'd be able to move the table if you wanted to move the table. A combination, which we said you could then move. What is the status of a keychain that contains a house key as well as a key to the car? May one move or carry outside where that is permitted such a keychain on Shabbat? The Orchat Shabbat writes that it's permitted. Tzwar maftechot, a whole ring of keys. Sheyesh bo maftechot shel heter, maftechot shel iser. There are car keys there. K'gon mafteach shel habayit, u'maftech shel mechonit. Ein lechozet kol hatzor biyodav l'taltalo. You should not carry the whole thing. Kiven shemitaltas l'maftech osher biyodav, v'reizah tiltul gomer. Ach muter lechos b'tabat shebat lo maftechot, but he doesn't want you to hold on to he doesn't want you to touch the forbidden keys. But you can hold the key ring itself without touching the forbidden key. Because you have your house key, those are permitted things. So then it becomes a basis for the combination of mutter and heter, and then you can move that. The car key is being carried sort of like agav, a sigh indirectly. You can hold on to the house keys, and that collection of keys could be moved that way. Okay.
And this would apply not only to the key to the car, I assume, but also a key fob. I don't know why it would be any different.
Yeah, they have a key fob there in the picture.
Oh yeah, there it is. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's strange. What, you can take your car keys with your keys in your pocket, go to shul. If
Yes.
there's eruv,
Yes.
I don't know. It's the key fob is muktzah legamre.
I know, but the key
If you have
ring
heter.
has mutter keys and usher keys.
Yeah, but
We just learned today.
let's say you're going to shul.
A bossis ledover usher vedover mutter. You have a leniency.
I give you an example. It happens all the time. So when I go to shul, let's say I leave my car there, right? So I take my key fob off, I leave it in the shul, and then I take my keys with me from the key fob that came off the key fob.
I know, but you've learned tonight that you don't have to do that.
Very, very, very strange.
I've actually seen Rabbanim do that. I've seen more than one occasion.
They don't want you to hold on to
They
don't want you to hold on to the key thing by holding on to the fob itself.
Yeah, but
you can hold on either to the keys or to the ring.
But let's say it's in your pocket. It's in your pocket. You're not holding it. It's in your pocket.
I understand your pocket, but if the key fob itself was in your pocket, so then we deal with the issue of which pocket and was it there before Shabbat and all that stuff? Because then it's just a muktzah item in your pocket.
Yeah, no, I'm talking
now
about.
You're dealing with muktzah and non-muktzah items in your pocket.
I understand.
So therefore, your pocket does not become a basis l'dover aser. Your pocket becomes a basis l'dover mutter v'ha aser. I'm just analyzing it carefully. So, and then it's not a basis anymore because you have competing items, and maybe your house is more important than your car key, right? We said it's based on importance.
You just have to be careful.
Certainly, it's on Shabbos. It's much more important because you don't use the car on Shabbos. And your key, you do.
You have to be careful when you take it out to grab the key ring, not the key.
Grab the key ring or the permitted keys. Correct. Recent, I mean, it's black and white here. I mean, we don't see anybody argue with it. Recent poskim have also discussed whether the door of the refrigerator or freezer may be opened on Shabbat if inedible foods are located on the inside of the door. I mean, you think the shilas that people come up with. What kind of inedible food are you going to have in your refrigerator? Well, like baking soda? People sometimes have baking soda, so for a smell. And now we have a problem. Baking soda is a problem because baking soda is muktzah machmas isser because you're not allowed to bake on Shabbos. Remember, he said that's a problem. You got to get rid of that. Well, it's not in the door. If you don't put it in the door, then if you put it in the refrigerator, then you're not touching that. You're not moving that.
Really?
Okay. Now, the Shmir Shabbos writes that one should ideally avoid leaving muktzah items inside the door because one thereby moves the muktzah items. But if necessary, one may put muktzah items in the door and use the door even if it's holding them on Shabbos. Because remember, you also have non-muktzah items. I mean, it's it says if you can't avoid it, keep it out of there. Keep it you're moving muktzah when you open the door. Ella, put it on the racks. He says it's, I don't know why they don't say that in the door itself you have other items that are not muktzah. So it's again a combination of muktzah and not muktzah items. It's not a bossis. Rav Bodner discusses another common scenario involving a base, that of a suitcase or a backpack containing muktzah items. He writes that the suitcase becomes a base for the muktzah item and may not be moved. But if it also contains non-muktzah items that were not deliberately placed underneath the muktzah items, the non-muktzah items are not considered bases. A suitcase trunk or briefcase, which had muktzah items in it during Ben HaShmoshes, is a bossis and may not be moved even if the muktzah item was removed from it on Shabbos. If one wishes to pack a suitcase with muktzah items and non-muktzah items, he packs the muktzah items on top of the non-muktzah items, not because he wants the base to support the muktzah, but rather because he wants everything in the suitcase. The non-muktzah items lying under the muktzah items do not become a bossis. He did not specifically prefer that the muktzah stay on top, providing the muktzah is more choshuv than the non-muktzah. If, however, the non-muktzah items are more choshuv, the suitcase does not become a bossis at all. Okay. We're going to stop here. I believe we will finish volume 20 next week. Probably it'll take us all of next week to finish. Yeah. Because there's permitted ways to move muktzah objects. But I would encourage everyone to come if you want and pick up your volume 21 from me. I have it in my home. If you want to come next Tuesday to learn, we had very nice refreshments here. Saul enjoyed it. You want to come, or you want to just come anytime, pick up the book whenever you want to come, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
Have a great week.
Thank you.
Questions?
Yeah.
Well, I'll do.